Hey buddy, it's Peter, and this is the 2025 Triumph Rocket 3 GT, but this is a special edition Evel Knievel version, and it is a numbered edition. It is 484 out of 500. This thing is super unique, and you can't see from that angle how special this thing looks. So I'm gonna bring you in close and show you all about this bike. This is a little bit of a review of the Rocket 3, but it's also just sort of a visual inspection of what this Evel Knievel edition is, because this is absolutely awesome. Triumph really nails it when they do the special edition type things, and this is just a perfect example of that. And this is a pretty cool muscle bike on its own. So we're gonna talk about what this bike is and all about it. And if you have questions about it, we can come back to it again and again. I am filming as many 2025 bikes as I can this year, and I wanna thank Rally Motoplex for giving me access to all of their vehicles, in addition to all sorts of other dealers that work with me. But Rally Motoplex is pretty awesome because they can pull in special editions just like this for me to get filmed and for you to, of course, purchase, take home, and that kind of thing. So big thanks to Rally Motoplex. Give them a like, give them a share, by all means, comment, give me a positive comment on this video. But if you really want to help my channel out, one of the reasons I got to film here is simply because my channel has been growing, and the best way to help my channel grow is to find a couple videos you like and watch it till the end. There's all kinds of videos on this channel of all kinds of different kinds of bikes, so if you find a few you like, watch them to the end. I really appreciate it. That would help. All right, let's get going with this review. So let's start by putting this bike in a class. Now, I don't know that the class matters as much when you come to these special edition bikes. This Evel Knievel edition, this is a collector's bike. That's what it is. Now, can you ride it down the road? Absolutely. The Rocket 3 in general, Rocket 3 GT, is a true muscle bike. You heard me call it that off the top. You can call it a cruiser, you can call it all kinds of things. I don't know that it matters what we call it, but we will talk about the power of this bike and you will be blown away. It has a massive engine. Everything about this thing is massive, yet surprisingly, when I sit across it or even move it across the showroom floor here, it doesn't feel that big. So there's some magic going on here with that. So we'll call it a muscle bike. We'll call it a special edition bike. You guys can call it what you want, but let's start looking at the components. Let's start at the front wheel and we'll move our way back. So if you've seen my reviews before, you know I love to start at the front wheel because you can talk about the manufacturer's intent for the bike. And being a special edition, you may be expecting some special edition badging down here. Well, it's right up here. EK, Evel Knievel sort of signature. We'll show you that in just a second here. It'll be out throughout the bike here. But down here, what you see is general Rocket 3 GT type stuff. And this is a very unique bike. One thing you're not gonna be able to see on camera is how wide these front tires are. These are 150 series wide tires, so they are massively wide. There are bikes in the showroom here at Rally Motoplex that don't have rear wheels as wide as this front wheel. Wait till we talk about the back wheel, we'll talk about that in a second. And of course, a bike with this much power, which we'll talk about the power in a second, you have dual disc Brembo brakes, braided lines done throughout, and you also have braided lines to the Brembo rear brake as well. So full Brembo system, not just decorative Brembo brakes up front and then cheapy stuff out back. You've got a full componentry system here that can handle this power, and that's what you want. But of course, this bike is all about style and not just power. It's about everything, really, right? So you've got the upside down forks here. They are adjustable, so you can tweak them up, unlike a lot of traditional cruisers that are maybe less adjustable. You've got some adjustability there. The radial mount of the Brembo brakes, of course, that's the standard type thing, but you've got those sort of power brakes, power bike, that kind of thing. And of course, that wide wheel with the alloy spokes in behind there. Basically full-on sport bike brakes. Cruiser style tires in some ways, but really the profile of them is a lot closer to a sport bike. So there are certainly more cruiser type styles. These are the Metzeler Cruise Tech, so they're certainly cruiser tires, but they have a bit more of a sport bike type profile to them. So this bike's gonna be able to lean over and do its thing, but you've got massively wide tires. So we'll talk about that when we get to the rear tire especially. Let's move on to the engine now. So taking a look at the heart of this bike, this is where this bike is absolutely insane. It is a liquid-cooled 3-cylinder engine, and I've got my cheat sheet in front of me because I want to get this stuff right. 2,458 cc, so 2.458 liter bike. This thing is bigger than a lot of car engines, even a lot of SUV engines these days, but it's a 3-cylinder, so it's already unique. Triumph has a lot of three cylinders, so this thing's absolutely massive. Horsepower, right around 180 horsepower, and 225 Newton meters or 166 foot-pounds of torque at 4,000 RPM. So this thing is an absolute monster for power, and it's ridiculous in the way it's styled, it's ridiculous in the way it's powered. Everything about this bike is kind of ridiculous, including the Evel Knievel sort of paint scheme. It's just out there. It's pretty awesome. So we're going to bring you into some of the details. You can see the Evel Knievel logo right there. That is sort of a sticker on there. You've got a plate here on the engine where it's an Evel Knievel signature, 484 to 500, as we talked about there. And of course, this 3-in-1-in-2 exhaust system here that just absolutely like sets apart the Rocket 3 GT, even without this Evel Knievel paint scheme and that kind of thing. Over on the foot pegs, you got the branded names in there, Triumph in there, and again, a fairly compact bike. Like, it's all pushed nicely together. It's well weighted down the center. We're going to show you what it looks like with me on the bike in a second. It does lead to a shaft drive. We'll talk about that in a second when we get back to the rear wheel. So basically, tons of power, long service intervals. I think it's a 10,000 mile service interval. So you got long service intervals in here. So a very rideable bike for sure. But in this Evel Knievel paint scheme, it also becomes a very collector bike. So massive power. Everything about this bike is massive. But like I said, as I sit across it in a second here, you're going to find that this thing is surprisingly lightweight-ish to move around. We'll talk about that in just one second. So take a look at the rear tire. This is not the impressive view of this, but you may be able to see the 240/50R16 tire. So it's a 17-inch up front, it's a 16-inch out back, and you have that shaft drive, which allows you to have that single-sided swing arms for that automotive type finish here. This view doesn't look that crazy, but as you come across the backside, you'll realize that this thing has a wider tire than many, many cars, and that also sets it apart as something that is absolutely ridiculous, but also kind of cool and kind of amazing. What I love here is you got the Triumph symbol in there, you've got the Triumph motorcycles around the outside of this center plate there. Very cool details in here, and this, nothing Evel Knievel like on the rear wheel here, but just the general look of this totally fits that Evel Knievel type side. So we're going to show you the rear wheel, and then we're going to jump across this bike and show you a few other details. So taking a look at the rear wheel of this bike, we told you it's a 240, right? So this is my hand, and this is my hand, and I'm only about just past halfway. So you could fit almost 4 hands across that. This is an incredibly massive tire. It really does set apart this bike from a style perspective. All right, let's talk about some practicality and seating position. So jumping across this bike, it is a 29.5-inch seat height. Now this little backrest here is just available on the GT version, the top spec version of this bike. It's not exclusive to this Evel Knievel paint scheme, but this bike is just a hair over 700 pounds, but it actually doesn't feel that bad. Certainly it's a heavy bike. Obviously if you were to drop it, which you do not want to do with this special edition, it's going to be very difficult to pick up. But just standing across it, moving it around the showroom here as I had to do earlier, it really doesn't feel that bad. It's a 29.5-inch seat height, but seat height often means very little when you look at a motorcycle, because you can have a 29.5-inch on one and 29.5-inch on another, even within the same brand, and one will feel completely different because of the width. This one, for a massive engine, is actually still fairly narrow through the front here, so you can get your feet down. I can easily flat feet with my knees bent. I'm about 6 feet tall. And then when you go into the control type setting, it's very comfortable, typical cruiser style forward controls. You've got your brake lever right there, clutch lever on the other side, of course, gear shift on the other side, of course. But you've got a very comfortable seating position here in control. Now you do have a nice sort of flip up here. You're going to need that because this thing is going to push you back in the seat very hard when you start accelerating with it. This thing is going to outclass many, many, many sport bikes as far as acceleration. Now it's not something that's going to be incredibly nimble for handling simply because of the weight, but I think it'll surprise some people for the way it holds a corner. It's not something that's really flickable side to side, but I think it'll surprise by the way it can hold a corner, and you certainly have a lot of tire on the road compared to a lot of other motorcycles. So seating position here, very comfortable, very sort of neutral. You've got room for your rear seat passenger here with that little backrest, which again, given the power of this bike, I'd say get this. You want something behind your passenger, because if you just give it a little bit extra throttle on this bike, you're going to be accelerating very, very, very quickly. A couple things I like here. The filler is off to the right-hand side, so when you're on the side stand, it's still centered on the tank. And like I said, pulling it off the center stand, let's just make sure, pull it off the side stand, excuse me. Just want to make sure it wasn't in the crack there. It's very light and easy to do. It's not something that's difficult. So for the weight of the bike's very well balanced and it hides it well. Comfort, if you like this position, I think you're going to be very comfortable. You're very upright and comfortable. You will have an angled windshield. It's going to send some wind towards your helmet, probably a full face helmet kind of bike. But again, with the speed of this, you may want that. Now, I do want to show you the dash on this bike because it is also a special edition, but before we get to the dash, I'm going to show you a couple of the pieces up close that make this bike unique in the Evel Knievel paint scheme. And then you can see the dash, which is a gorgeous color screen, which has a specific Evel Knievel startup procedure, which is pretty cool as well. So we'll bring you through those right now. So I don't usually freehand things in my video, but I do want to show you some of the special Evel Knievel pieces on here. So right again on the very front here, the EK, very American flag with the Evel Knievel right there. You do have the dual headlights there as well, just while we're showing some other details, but let's just show you some of the Evel Knievel type things. Of course, you've got the signature there on the top of the radiator there, and then you've got over here on the engine, the actual engraved in Evel Knievel. If we can try to get that showing. Let me see if I can zoom in a better way. There we go. Actually engraved in there. Sorry about the shaky camera work. I did not bring my Steadicam today. Coming back out, you've got this American flag combined with the Triumph logo there, with sort of the Union Jack in the Triumph logo. And then you've got a lot of chrome pieces here. So chrome right where your knees go, traditional Rocket 3 GT down there. You've got the Triumph seat with the Evel Knievel logo back there. Moving across to the tank here, you have a brushed aluminum type look, then a chrome look, and then the white, red, white, and blue. And the blue has a little bit of metallic, I believe, in there as well. Very cool. We're going to show you the dash in just a second, which comes to life in a very unique way. And coming back here, you've got that striping that takes you to that rear wheel as well. So all kinds of little details that set this thing apart. When you actually look at this thing up close, it really shows much better than on camera. It really stands out. It is a very, very, very unique bike. But let's show you the dash and the startup. So I am zoomed right into this dash. This is a keyless entry or a keyless bike, so you just press the button over here on the kill switch, which you can't see on camera, but I want to show you the screen for a second, so take a look at it right now as it comes to life. As we turn it on, first of all, it's traditional Triumph logo, but look at that, Evel Knievel stuff, and the bright full color screen. Isn't that a super cool startup screen? So you have this traditional Rocket 3 when you get there, but early on, all of this is special. The whole thing is a very cool, animated type design. There's a few different things. We can show you this sort of the dash on this in a future video, but we'll just go through some very basics right now. You've got obviously your speedometer, you've got your tachometer. You can change the view on a lot of these things. There's a, we'll show you some of the controls on how to do that. You can certainly switch through some riding modes, that kind of thing. We're going to just take a look on this side here. We've got fuel efficiency numbers. Don't worry about those. 13.4 liters per 100 kilometers. We're just a hair off center there to show you that perfectly. Of course, don't worry about that. This has almost no mileage on it, but you can cycle through. That's your fuel information. There's your coolant information there. Various lighting type things, various settings of dash and that kind of thing. So you have a Chronos theme, you have a Quartz theme, so lots of different options in there. And then of course you've got different styles to hide different things, and we'll just sort of keep it where it is. I don't want to mess with it too much. And then of course back to some general efficiency, or actually sort of that's your odometer, your timing, and other type features in there. So we've kind of cycled through on the right side. Again, your center display is full color, but it fills out in these areas also with that TFT style display. TFT displays never film as well as they look in person, but I think you can sort of see this thing is just artwork in process. Like, it's just absolutely gorgeous to look at. And of course, how do you control this? Well, let's show you that right now. So taking a look clutch side, first of all, you've got a fairly reasonable clutch for the size of the engine. It is adjustable, not super heavy or anything. This is not an in-town bike in my mind. You do have your flash to pass for your high beam right there, cruise control here, your modes there, drive modes there, and then of course your signal lights, and then you have the traditional Triumph joystick down here right next to the horn switch, so you can move through the controls in various ways. It goes up, down, left, right, and you can press it in to select. You do have your heated grips over to the side right here, right on the grip itself, so a lot of nice things there. Heated grips are awesome, I love them, so of course having them on this bike makes a lot of sense, but this is only part of the controls. You also have a home switch and a couple other switches on the other side, so let's show you them right now. So over on the throttle side, I just want to show you the mirrors. Of course, they're bar end mount mirrors or end mount mirrors. And then you come over to the controls here. Now you do have one switch you cannot see. We're going to zoom into the ones we can see for a second here, just to sort of show you. So just beyond the hazard warning light, you do have sort of a lock switch. Again, this is a keyless bike, so you can sort of lock this steering and that kind of thing up. This is your start and kill switch, all built into one. Just tap that start switch, or the on switch, to get that dash to come to life. And down here is your home button. So when you're using the joystick on the other side to move through controls, you can always use the home button to switch back through here. No heated grip control or anything on this side because you have that on the other side. So home switch is really the only one you're going to have to activate while you're riding, other than like maybe a hazard light, but home switch there. Everything else is done on your left-hand side. So let's talk about who this bike is for. Well, first of all, the Rocket 3 GT is an absolute monster of a muscle bike. I think it's had the largest production volume of engine, like cc's, in a motorcycle. I don't know if that's 100% true right now, but it's probably very, very, very close. But again, this 3-cylinder engine is an absolute monster. Sounds great, does all that kind of stuff. But with this Evel Knievel package, I think it broadens and narrows the market. If you are a Triumph fan and want to get their collector edition bikes, this is for you. If you're an Evel Knievel mega fan, this is the bike for you. If you want something like this that just stands out in a crowd and looks amazing and you're okay with having a numbered edition, special edition, then this bike is also for you. But the Rocket 3 in general is a pretty amazing bike. Adding some of this stuff in, like even the special electronics in the dash and that start screen, all of that just makes for a very special bike, and it's already a special bike. The overall styling of this thing, like I said, the massive front tire, the incredibly massive rear tire, all of this is just a really unique bike. There's very little else like it out there. And then of course you add in a style package of this, it just looks and is done very well. You gotta give Triumph credit for this kind of thing. Very few people that, usually they slap a few stickers on. If they do a numbered edition, okay, that's great, but this thing's just very well done. It really fits a theme from front to back and overall in the riding. You can see it while you're riding, people can see it while it's parked, all that special edition stuff. So this is a special bike. I have a feeling you know if this bike is right for you or not. If you're looking for a cruiser that is very sporty and very fast, you have that cruiser riding position, but of course you have an engine with not just a lot of horsepower, but also a ton of torque. This thing is gonna just crush sport bikes. And of course you do have a lot of tire on the road, which is kind of nice to have as well. It's not just a style package, it does put that tire down on the road when you've got all this power. So a very, very cool bike. I decided to film this as my first bike of the day here at Rally Motorplex just because you cannot ignore this bike when you walk up and see it. The camera angle I'm filming through now does not do it justice. When you start walking around this thing and seeing it, it is an absolute stunner of a bike. And if that's the kind of bike for you, you gotta come check this out at Rally Motorplex. Again, if you want this one, it is number 484 out of 500. It's a special numbered edition, so that's the bike. If you end up buying this bike, hopefully this video makes it to you, and you'll have this video as part of the whole package of owning this bike. All right, we're gonna keep moving on here. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll talk to you in the next one.